Hi, John here. Welcome to part one of my Davy Jones build. It's going to be a big project, can't wait, really looking forward to it. As well as Davy himself, I'm going to make his chest, his heart, his pipe. I'll make a series of videos that cover each section of the build. Here's the heart, but we'll put that aside for now. The head's over there somewhere. The heart is going to have a little mechanism inside to make it go thump thump, but that's another video. This video is part one of his chest build. So let's get started, can't wait. Now, the most important part of any build, not the most fun, but it is easy, is reference. Reference. This part of the project has one advantage over the rest in the fact that the chest was an actual physical prop on set, unlike Davy himself, of course. There's a great website called DisneyScreencaps.com that does exactly what it says on the tin. It's 100 odd pages of pretty much every still in the film. Of course, the internet, toys, merchandise, other official replicas, like in this case, the master replica chest that was released at the same time as the film, are all very helpful. But whenever you can, always rely on shots from the film to guide you. If you come across a certain angle you simply can't get film reference for, other sources can help you fill in those blanks and make sense of those pixelated shadows that you're sure connect this bit to over there. But yeah, film reference all the way. One interesting thing I've noticed, because I'm a stickler for detail, is in a couple of shots, you can see where one of the fake rivets that are holding the chest together had fallen off. And you can see the lighter mark on the underlying chest where it's supposed to be stuck on. In other shots, it is there. I find that quite interesting. Especially in exhibits after the film's released, when you can see the hero prop in these exhibits, it's definitely there. Anyway, here are examples of the reference I found. I won't bore you with them all because there's lots, but I'm happy I've got enough angles to make this work. Now I've got my reference, what I like to do, I've done this for a couple of years now, ever since I learned this technique at MPC. I like to roughly 3D model whatever I'm going to make in the computer first. It allows me to visualize the piece much better, and in most cases gives me angles I might not be able to find reference for any other way. A good example is a head bust. Say you found a good front and side shot of your chosen subject, but no 3/4 angles. If you 3D model it first and do it properly, if your model matches the front and the side reference images, then your 3/4 must also be correct. For Davy's chest, it's not quite as helpful, but it's a much simpler object. But I do like to do it all the same. It also allows me to iron out any questions I might have about how parts might fit together much quicker than if I went straight into physically making it. So, a new Maya scene, I always create a cube, that's just me. Create yourself a camera, change your view to that camera, and if you go to the camera attributes over here, you can create an image plane, and then go find your first reference image. Here's one from the film, just as Jack is about to open the chest for the first time. I've brightened it so you get to see more detail. We need to go to our image plane and make sure it's always in front of our 3D camera. Sorry, in front of our 3D model, get it right. If you make it a bit transparent as well, you get to see both, which is great. So a standard Maya 3D camera has a focal length of 35, which is not what we want. So the human eye sees roughly in Maya about 55-60. So if we set it to 60, then we can start to line up our image. You can't zoom in and out with an image plane the standard way you would in Maya, because if you do, you'll change the focal length. So what we need to do is we need to go and use the 2D pan tool, hold Control Shift and Alt, and this way allows us to zoom in and out, keeping the focal length fixed. Okay, so that's one camera. Let's create a second. You can see the first camera there. Again, create an image plane. This second reference shot looks to be from the back of the chest. Again, we need to change it so it's always in front of our model, slightly transparent, and again 60 focal length. Now, not all of your reference shots, unfortunately, will be focal length of 60. They will vary quite greatly from shot to shot. So if you start with a few that look to be 60-ish, get those lined up, then when you bring in another image that is clearly got a different focal length, you know it's the focal length that needs changing on your camera and not your 3D model, because your first two reference images work already. You do have to start playing with focal lengths, your model placement. Just keep at it until it just clicks and it starts to work. When it is working, the more cameras you can add, the more accurate your 3D model will end up being. I do see a lot of people trying to line up reference shots in ZBrush when they are making busts or similar models, and it always just doesn't look quite right, and this is the reason why. ZBrush doesn't have a true perspective. It has a kind of fake 2.5D view. You always need to bring your model into a package like Maya that has a true perspective to see how it will look when sculpted for real. So what we don't want to do for our particular reference image is rotate our 3D model. We want to leave the model fixed at 0, 0, 0 and square in the middle of our scene. If you do need to rotate for one particular reference image, go back out to your perspective view and rotate the camera, not the model. So if I do a Blue Peter moment, always wanted to do one of those, and open up a scene I made earlier, here we go. You can see the rough 3D model I've created. It's simple, but it's a pretty good representation of Davy's chest. If I go through all the cameras, the different reference shots throughout the film, all with slightly different focal lengths to make it all work, some have even got simple guidelines I've drawn on there to help. Whilst it's not perfect at any particular shot, it's a pretty damn good average of what the chest is, which I can refine and improve as I add detail to the model later. So, how big is all of this? There are no official measurements that I could find. If you look at the old master replica chest on Amazon.com, it wasn't on the UK page. It states it's roughly 19 by 15 by 14 inches. But also elsewhere on the same page, it says it's 18 by 12 by 13 inches. Very helpful. I've also found dimensions elsewhere online saying it's 15 by 10 and various others. Annoyingly, all of these proportions don't match up with my own research. As I showed my process earlier, the red line is Amazon's official sizing, whilst the blue is my front and side. Now, I'm pretty good at this, and I've been sizing in 3D for many years, but I just can't get the master replica proportions to work. I am pretty happy I've got my proportions correct. I just don't know how big the overall thing is. I've tried grabbing stills from the film, other people holding the chest, but there just isn't any part of the film where the chest is next to an object for long enough that you can use as a good base for figuring out size. So that takes me on to the key itself. I thought I could use this image, or indeed any shot from the film when the key is in the chest itself. However, I just can't find any exact figures for how large the key is either. Once again, various online dimensions just don't appear to be correct from what I can gauge. Some say they're 3.5 by 1.5 inches, but just looking at a picture of the key square on, if the length was 3.5, it's definitely narrower than 1.5, so that doesn't work. I also believe, from looking at pictures like this one, that the key is in fact longer than 3.5 inches. If you take Johnny Depp to be, say, 5'10", and the size of the key in his hand, I'd guess the key is about 4.5 inches long, something like that. So I was at a bit of a dead end with this until I managed to chat to someone on the RPF. Now, the RPF is the Replica Prop Forum. It's a fantastic place for anyone interested in movie props of any kind. A fellow prop enthusiast had access to the screen used prop back in the day when the film was released, and could confirm the key was in fact 4.19 inches by 1.326 inches, which is great. So I've got that information. So a quick mock-up of the key, back to our Maya scene to scale it with my rough chest, and from this we can figure out how big the chest needs to be. Simple as that. So here's my final 3D model, mostly modelled in Maya with the carved details sculpted in ZBrush. I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. It's definitely good enough to allow me to start physically making it. That'll be the next video. One interesting thing that I noticed whilst modelling this is the length of the key in relation to the chest wall thickness. When the key is in the lock, lining up the open shots to get a fairly accurate wall thickness, the key sticks through into the middle of the chest. Now, you never see that wall in the film, so who says there isn't an extra piece of lock in there, like I have added in. It would certainly look cleaner without it, but it is necessary, especially if you want to make a proper locking mechanism like I am planning to do for this. I'm going to buy some high quality teak wood and hand saw the wooden pieces of the chest. The carved sections will be CNC'd and then cold cast out of aluminium. Regardless of Davy as a costume, I do hope this should be a lovely piece just to have around the house and you know, a conversation starter when people visit. What I'd love to do, when I go on troops, when I'm walking around as Davy, obviously freaking people out, hand the key to a kid and ask them to go find my chest somewhere around the troop. When they open it, my heart will be beating away inside. Can't wait. Anyway, see you on the next video.